Whether you keep them in your home or love to see them in theirs, these are the creatures that bring us all together.
Reptiles. We're going to be delving into the experiences of reptile lovers from around the block and around the world. This is the Reptile Talk Podcast. Boom!
What's good?
What up? How's it
I'm
going,
pumped.
dude?
I'm pretty excited. This is our first show that we're doing completely remote, where we're not in the same room.
That's right. It's very different.
So everyone, if this episode sucks, that's why.
That's why. Yeah. Well, I don't think it'll suck either. I'll listen to the playback on YouTube, and if it's immediately deleted, then you'll know why.
Yeah. This will be the lost episode.
Yeah, exactly. Jeez. I'm just hoping I'm in a basement, so I'm just hoping that my audio and video don't shit the bed after 10 minutes of being down here.
I'm sitting right next to the router, so if my stuff sounds like poop, I'm gonna be upset.
It's as you should be.
We didn't even do our regular intro.
We didn't. Oh my gosh, we didn't. Hi everybody, this is Jeremy Turgeon from Brassman Reptiles.
And I'm Rob, and I'm keeping it real. Delayed satisfaction.
We're all fucked up today.
Yeah, we're all messed up. Is what
man.
It is.
It is what it is. It's a Monday, so I think we can get away with it. It's a Monday.
I'm blaming it on Monday. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
I think that's fair.
What do you think we should talk about tonight?
So I think we're talking about something that oddly enough kind of goes hand in hand, and that's kind of the energy within the reptile industry right now, and also the youth in the reptile hobby. And I think it goes hand in hand, I think, because we're seeing a lot of younger people just coming into the reptile industry, which is awesome. But when you certainly see all of the chaos and nonsense that's been going on, especially over the last 5 or 6 months, just as social media really has become the focal point of our lives, it's really easy to get caught in a wave of negative energy, and everybody, especially kids, want to be trolls. So
True.
So how those kind of play a part of things, and sometimes I like to be a troll too, but
Oh no. I think it's really unique what we're experiencing right now, because with everything going remote, people are it feels like we're further apart, but I don't know. I feel like our community is definitely like banded together. Since we can't be in person, it's really, we're relying on the internet and social media to be connected and to be close to one another and to share, ideas and what's going on and what you got going on in your facility and what you're producing and, all these different aspects of the reptile hobby. So I feel like there's just like a buzz right now. It's really interesting to me to see all the stuff that's going on. The big push for people supporting USARK all coming together and doing that. And all the people who are, a lot of people have stepped up to the plate and, organized auctions and donations and all sorts of stuff to help support USARK. And it's been really amazing to see all that going on.
Yeah, for sure. I know you got to meet Chino from DMJ Pythons.
Yeah.
He's down in New York, and he organized that big fundraiser that was almost $9,000 or something like that he raised for USARK between his two. And then Mickey from the Show Me Snakes shows
Myers, yeah.
Raising, was it like $23,000, and then like
23,000
matched it or something.
Yeah. That's wild.
So that's huge. Like that's amazing, and that's that definitely shows kind of like the real community aspect of what kind of goes on, that doesn't often get showcased unless you're kind of like in the scene or in the know or anything like that. So kudos to all the people that are doing that and trying to keep that positive wave, and momentum going. Because I mean, we need it. I feel like in every aspect of our lives we need some extra element of positivity, but as we've seen over the last just really 3.5-ish months, with it seemed like, especially in the month of February, every week there was a new proposed legislation. It seemed like it wasn't going to end. So it's definitely great to see people stepping up to the plate, making their donations to USARK, putting those kind of fundraisers together, and really like pushing people to go look at USARK and understand what that organization does for us. So I think that's definitely a huge positive.
Yeah, we had our banners, our USARK banners at Manchester, the Manchester Reptile Expo we just did yesterday. And we had a bunch of people that came up and were like, "Can I take a picture with the USARK banner?" And I was like, yes, please do that.
Hell yeah. That's what we need.
Do it. Yeah. And, we had a lot of people come up to the booth and they were like, "Oh, it's so nice to see you. We're glad that Nerd is finally back vending an expo. And, we haven't seen you guys." And I was like, "Yeah, I haven't been in an expo since October 2019, Tinley. And then the expo that we vended before that was like the New Hampshire Expo that was like at the beginning of the summer of 2019. So We've really not been vending expos. We haven't been going out. We just wanted to wait until it was a little bit safer with COVID and everything. But it was so good to go out yesterday and to see all the people. There was so many, we're talking about the youth. There was a lot of kids who came to the expo yesterday who were just like diehard reptile fans. And, they came out to the booth and they're, all excited. And, a couple kids came up, they got leopard geckos. And even if they didn't buy them for me, I'm like, "What do you got over there?" And, then there's, the parents that wouldn't let their kids buy anything. So they got them a stuffed snake instead. And, I'm still like, "Hey, what kind of snake you got there?" I always ask the kids, what do they name it? Because usually kids come up with a name like right away.
Pretty quick, yeah.
But yesterday, half the kids I asked, they were like, "I don't know." And I was like, Okay, random.
They'll figure it out on the drive home.
Probably. They're like, "I'm putting thought into this. This animal's going to be with me the rest of its life, so don't pressure me."
Yeah. I got to go read through the big book of baby names on the ride home.
Ooh. I would love to do that. I just got to tear out pages and tape them all to the wall and then take darts and just throw darts pick names for my next reptiles. That's how I'm going to do it.
There you go. Jeez.
Makes sense, right?
I guess, yeah. I was going to say just start cutting all the names out and putting them on the bins at Nerd. Just give everything names.
Ooh, now you've got me on a kick.
See?
When I do tours, I get people who like every bin that I open, they're like, "What's this one's name?" And I'm like, "You understand that we have like 7,000 snakes here. We don't have names for everybody."
Yeah.
A lot of these are for sale. A lot of people they want to name their pet snake.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what's interesting about that is there's I forgot the name of that company that's like they're all over Morph Market and the various parts of that market, and they give every animal a name and a background story. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, and they seem to be like crushing it.
Oh, they are 100%.
And I'm just like, yeah, but don't people want? I mean, of course you can always just change the name. Like it's not like you give an animal a name and it's got to live with it its entire life. But like, I don't know. To me, that would almost be like a turnoff. Like, I want you to name that for me. Like, what if I
like its personality? What if it's not a Bob? What if come on now?
What if it's T Bappy 1622? What if that's its name? Huh? What if it wants to be a robot name? You don't know.
I mean, it's 2021. Don't assume it's gender. It can be a robot if it wants to be.
That's it. Oh my gosh.
I would love to have a robot name. That'd be cool.
RC1000.
Ooh, no, I can't copy Steve Tillis because he's ST1000.
ST1000. You can be the RC10000.
Ooh.
Because you've got more scrubs than Steve, so you have
just
to
for the time being.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So, but yeah, I mean, I definitely think even of course social media, we're seeing an incredible increase in youth. Just kind of like being interactive and involved. From posting in groups to commenting and asking questions, and I mean, it's funny because very often we always talk about, you have to do your research. And we've talked about it before. Like in 2021, sometimes joining a Facebook group is part of
Them doing
research,
research, yeah.
because they don't, I mean, of course you can just Google something, but there's a lot of conflicting information on the internet. So
I know. I get that phone call 72 times a week.
yeah. So, so for them to go into a Facebook group and ask a question to real people that can give them an answer, that might be a little bit more valuable than just trying to search it up on Google. That being said, you should also Google it. But
Yes.
Yeah,
for real.
But it is definitely interesting. Like when I do my Instagram lives. Speaking of which, I'll be doing one at 9 p.m. When I do my Instagram lives, recently I've had like an influx of younger keepers kind of jumping on from that, and I think that's awesome. I absolutely love that. Because they're the next gen, dude. I mean, we're getting older. Everybody except Steve. Steve's always forever young.
No, everybody's getting older.
It's true, but until Steve actually finally has his doctorate, he'll forever be young because he's always in school. He might have more hair on his arm than I do, but he's still young.
Oh my God. No. So Jeremy, you've been to some of the expos down outside of New England, because I literally have not. I haven't been to an expo literally since Tinley 2019. I haven't gone to any expos. Nerd hasn't vended any expos, and then I personally have not even gone to any expos. I'm just like, I was too nervous about COVID regulations and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But you've been to some of the expos outside of New England, so like, what do you feel like the energy is like? How do people? What's the air like there?
Well, you want to know what's interesting is down in Atlanta and North Carolina, people care obviously about COVID, but man, it's just like life as normal, with the exception of the masks and like the 2-hour time breaks, and then like a half an hour break in between. People are just kind of carrying on, and I think a huge portion of that kind of has to go with the fact that down here, like, nothing really stopped. Things just, I mean, they slowed down, and maybe like one show got canceled or a couple shows got canceled, but within a significantly shorter period of time than what we have seen up north, shows were happening again. It was just, you have you've got the 2 hours, you have to wear your mask, you've got to do X, Y, and Z. But yeah, so you see like the people who maybe lived a little further north are coming down because like, man, I want to be at a show, like they're happy to be at a show. And then you had the vendors that didn't necessarily really stop doing shows because the circuit down here is so large. So they weren't like they were just like, hey man, it's cool that we still get to do shows.
Yeah.
So there really wasn't a shift in energy towards a negative. They were just like, it's a pothole in the road kind of deal, but we're still moving forward, which I dig it. I mean, I don't know if I agree with hosting a large scale reptile expo during a pandemic, but
with no regulations, yeah,
with very little regulations, And I mean, I will say that the 2 hour time slots, like they had a cap, so like it was up to X amount of people and then it was sold out, so it wasn't just like anybody can come in and get a ticket for this 2 hour period, is you had to buy it online ahead of time, and once they sold out, and that was it. So there was a cap. I think that has its pros and cons for sure. But interestingly enough, I feel like there were some vendors that actually like enjoyed having that gap in between.
So you can walk around a little bit.
You can walk around. It was just like a moment to decompress. Like you could run to the bathroom and not get swarmed by a million people. You could you could buy that animal you saw at the beginning of the show, but you had to rush back to your table and you're just praying nobody bought it,
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. The energy down here seems to still be pretty consistent, which is great. It's nice that there's still some semblance of normal. Because I mean, up by us, it's there's no White Plains show, there's no Long Island show. The Manchester show only happened one other time, other than the one that just passed. And there's no Mass show. So those are our 4 shows up there. In the New England area. So unless you're going to make the drive down to, Hamburg. Thank you. Just drawing a blank to Hamburg, or you're going to go down to like the Mid-Atlantic show or whatever, all the way down to Maryland, talking driving between 5 to 7 hours to go to a show, from us, you're like, no, I'm not going to do that, because I'm going to drive 5 to 7 hours for a show that I can only be at for 2 hours, and then drive 5 to 7 hours back.
Oh, that would make me so angry.
Yeah, absolutely not a good idea.
If it was summertime, it'd be different, because I'd be like, okay, I can go for 2 hours, and then when I leave, I'm going field herping for the rest of the day.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
There's no real reptiles. I mean, there's turtles out right now, and amphibians are starting to make their way around and everything, but it's different. It's not the same.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. Yeah, so I mean, I just think there's a lot of it's just different. It's just different, but I don't think people are necessarily upset by the new normal. I know that there are certain people that are like, man, I just can't wait for shows to be back as they were, no breaks, just let the people in, no limits or whatever. But nobody necessarily felt like they're in a rush for that. They're just like, hey man, we're just happy that we can have a show.
Yeah, I feel like that's how it was this weekend. People were just excited to be out. They're excited to, be at an expo, see some cool animals, talk to some people that they know online. I had so many people come up to the booth and they're like, I watch all your videos and I'm like, yeah, hey, how's it going? So it was cool. So I don't know. I felt like this expo more than the last couple. I mean, besides Tinley, more than the last few Manchesters that I've been to, or local expos that I've been to. People were excited to be there, and even if they got to wear a mask, people were just happy to be out of the house and doing something that's not scrolling on social media.
Yeah, no, exactly that, dude. Exactly that. And also, I'm jealous because you guys got to hang out with Ty Park and John from Sim Container, and they were at the show. Yeah, go ahead, rub it in. All that is for me is an excuse to go back to Florida to go to Ty's place. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm doing that too.
Yeah. So it
was so amazing. It was great to finally meet Ty. I had known Ty Park through social media for a while now. And he's such a great guy, even in his social media posts, he's just like a super positive person. He's got determination. He's, putting his, his nose to the grind and doing things. And he is just like doing some amazing work. He's got some incredible animals at Iguanaland, and, being able to have him up here, and he's vaccinated and everything. So he got both his vaccines before he even came up and traveled. But he hanging out and talking lizards with him, it was just amazing. It was so cool. It was so cool because I'm just like, dude, I was geeked out. I was super geeked out. And then me and John have known each other for a long time. Probably 10 years or something, because I used to see him at the White Plains Expo, and he would always have like weird monitors and stuff, and I would always go talk to him about that. And one time I had vended next to him, and I was like, oh, I got some black tree monitors. He's like, wait a second, you have black tree monitors? And so ended up talking to him about that and going back and forth about the different tree monitor species and all this different stuff. So me and him, I've known him for a while, and it was amazing to have him come up to Nerd, and because he's never been to Nerd before. He'd never experienced it.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So for him and Ty, it was both of their first times being there.
Yeah.
And John was just all smiles the whole time, just like every time he took a monitor out, he's just like, "Oh my goodness, this thing's amazing!" And you know, Ty wanted to get right in there too. Like he got pictures of the big black dragon, our big black dragon male, and with the big albinos and everything. He was like, "No, I'm getting right in there. I want to hold them." And I was like, "Yeah, they got some serious class." He's like, "I wore my long sleeves. We're cool. Let's do this."
I love it. I love it.
It was great. It was great. But like, you know, it's cool to have people there who can like. I'm not saying that people who come to Nerd don't appreciate the monitors, because the people love the monitors, and it's really cool and unique to experience the monitors we've got here. But both Ty and John have, you know, like decades of experience of working with lizards and monitors.
Yeah.
So seeing those guys experience the monitors that we've got here and how they are,
Yeah.
that was so
It's
amazing.
a different,
man.
yeah, it's a different interaction. Yeah.
It's completely different, just completely different. And it really tripped me out. It was so cool. And to be able to share that, you know, experience with them was just, it was amazing. It was so cool.
Hell yeah.
And then the whole weekend, like when I was at the expo, because Ty went to the expo too, I'd be sitting there like just, you know, hanging out or talking to somebody or something, and all of a sudden I feel somebody like grab my shoulders and give me a big hug, and it's Ty, and he's like, "What's up? How's it going?" And I'm like, "Yes, yes."
That's awesome.
I'm like, I'm doing good. I'm pumped. And you know, he had a good time at the expo. You know, John was on vacation with his family, so his family was there, and his kids were like, "Oh yeah, we got lizards at home." And he was like, "No." He's like, "I'm coming back next time. No kids. No kids. It's just gonna be me." But that energy is just contagious, man. You know, seeing someone get excited and you know, processing all the stuff that's going on, you know, at the expo and here, it was just super cool.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things I was going to say is like we've experienced it a few different times at Nerd where you know, having people come to visit, like especially like being through everything that we've been through over the last year and change, where like there hasn't been any real person-to-person interaction in general, just in
hardly
general,
any.
you know. So to like start to finally have some of these opportunities again, you really, these are the things, like so many people harp on the negativity, you know, especially on social media, but that kind of energy, you know, the face-to-face, like we're just hanging out, blah blah blah, like that's everything, you know what I mean? And like that, for me, that's the kind of stuff that drives me, you know. Like, I mean, like being down here, I'm obviously I'm hanging out with Lenny from Demonic Reptiles while I'm down here, but even like being around other musicians, you know, the couple sessions that I've had, like that face-to-face interaction, like you're just excited. You're just excited because you're with people, you know, different people than you've spent the last year locked away with, you know.
Yeah.
You know, like that's a totally different experience, you know. And I mean, I think for anyone that might be a little too hyper focused on any of the negativity that exists, I think, man, you just got to go find somebody that you're, you know, comfortable hugging that's outside of your freaking
outside of your group,
quarantine group, and just go like say what's up, you know, like even if you are like, I don't really want to be around anybody else, even if you're like driving by your buddy's house and you just hit him up and you're like, you know, hey dude, come outside, like just say hello, like like that, just something face to face, you know.
Stand in your car and talk to him from 7 feet away.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I really do think there's a lot more positivity that's just like kind of underlying that exists. But we just need to see each other, man. Like, that's the biggest freaking thing.
I'm just reading the YouTube comments. I forgot that I could go on there and see what people are saying in the YouTube comments.
Oh,
so.
Yeah.
No, they're asking what's behind me, and there's scrub pythons in here, and then there's like some monitors over there, and there's Borneos and stuff behind me there. So
you know what I've
there's
got
a variety
behind me?
Things. Ball pythons.
Ball pythons.
Yes. Wait, I heard that there's some berms over there too.
There's a couple berms. There's a couple retics. There's a green anaconda. this asshole shops at Nerd.
You must be balling shit. I can't shop at Nerd.
Me either. Oh my gosh, too funny. But yeah, I think that energy wave really is incredibly important. I mean, just thinking, I'm kind of bummed that I missed the expo, just because, like, I mean, obviously New England, that's where I'm from. So many of those people are people that I've known for the vast majority of my life, that it would have been amazing to see again. So I guess I need to make sure I'm in town for the next one.
Jeremy, I'm looking at you, bud.
Yeah, that's cool. I know you missed me, Rob. It's okay.
I did. That's okay. That's okay.
I'll be back soon enough.
Dan's coming to say hi.
Hi, Dan.
What? Dan, we're live streaming right now.
Jeremy, I got something for you.
Oh no, no, none of that. None of that. We can't have any of that on the live stream. Oh, that's okay. He got bit by the walnut. Bit him on the stomach.
Perfect. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Big meal.
it wouldn't let go. One was they got eyes that are too big for their stomach and their mouth.
Very true. That's very true. Oh my gosh.
That's a painful bite. Oof.
Oh man.
Oof.
Yeah.
Rob was live streaming, so
Yeah, and I'm live streaming, so I can't help him. Yeah.
He left me alone.
I heard him screaming and crying, and I was like, somebody will help him.
Oh, poor Dan.
That's okay.
Dan.
We'll figure it out.
Couple of people, I'm just looking at the YouTube comments too. Somebody's asking if I'm not at Nerd anymore. No, I'm still at Nerd. I'm just away for the week. I had some musical work down in North Carolina, so I'm down here for a few more days, and then I'll be back. And a couple of people asking about my Super Tiger OGS. We got the rest of the eggs out of her, which is good. She's on a round of antibiotics, and looks like she'll make a full recovery with no issues. So I'm pretty excited about that. So the last big hurdle to get through is just getting her to feed, and then I think we'll be good to go. So after this course of antibiotics, we'll be good to go to give her some food. And yeah, but she's active, she's alert, she's all that other fun stuff, wants to kill us. So
She's not your best friend anymore.
She's not my best friend anymore. I got to work a lot on building that trust back up with her. But yeah. Hey, all I'll say is at least she's not a monster-sized retic. So
True.
I've taken bites from retics that size before, and they suck, but you live. So
That's fair.
Yeah, but yeah. So Rob, what are some of the things that you've seen social media wise when it comes to like the energy and kind of direction of energy, just in the industry as a whole?
I mean, right now, I feel like a lot of the groups that I'm in, like the species-specific or group-specific groups, they are really popping right now. People are really posting some interesting stuff. I mean, I sent you earlier that Anery Okatee. I was like, God dang, that thing is nice. It's so cool. I mean, I've never been like a huge fan of corn snakes, but like I saw that Anery Okatee and I was like, this thing's silly looking. It's so nice. But it feels like, so at the beginning of the pandemic, people were just stuck at home, and we saw like this huge burst of people getting new reptiles. And, we did a lot of sales when the pandemic started. I mean, as soon as FedEx allowed for us to ship and do all that sort of stuff, we saw tons of sales because everyone's just sitting at home. So it's like, I'm spending all my time in my house. Maybe I should get a couple more reptiles, or maybe I should get some reptiles. And so now people are starting to raise some stuff up, and they're sharing some of the things that they picked up, and they're really proud of the things that they've got, and that's been really cool to see the amount of people who are like, I've now the pandemic sucks, I lost my job, but it's allowed me to take my time and focus on my reptiles and focus on these things that I'm really interested in and I've got this passion for that you might not have had, the time or the, you might not have been pushed to do that before. But
Yeah.
now with COVID and everything, a lot of people are taking advantage of it and making the best of a poor situation. And I can't tell you how many people I've seen that are like, no, I swapped over from having a regular job to I do reptiles full time now. It's
That's
wild.
actually very true. I've seen the same kind of uptake in people who are able to work with the animals full time right now, which I think is awesome. Because I think it's important to note on that front that like it's still a very possible thing to do,
Yeah.
But you have to know what you're doing. You can't just randomly go one day and be like, I just don't want to do my job anymore. I'm going to work with snakes all day, and then all you have is
That's
like,
a bad idea.
all you have is like 10 ball pythons that you've never bred before. Like that doesn't work. But I mean, it was I think it's quite refreshing to see like Marshall Mendez building his new
Oh my goodness.
reptile building and everything like
Yes.
that kind of stuff. Absolutely love. Very inspiring.
And Trace Harden too. Trace just set up.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm so geeked out watching every little progression video and picture that he's been posting. I'm just like, oh, I need that. I need
it. Yeah. No, man, it's awesome. I feel like that's for a lot of people. It's kind of like the dream, right? Is to just work with the things that you love, and do what you love. Be that for yourself, or you get a job like at Nerd, or just something like that, where you just get to work with amazing animals, because that's what we love to do. So yeah, I think that's definitely like a huge push of positivity to be like, look, you can do it, and there's like no time like the present, to make it happen. And when you're producing some badass animals, and you can make it work, do it, and I think following people like Marshall and Trace are also a great example that like it doesn't need to just be ball pythons. Like you can breed other species of reptiles and make a living doing that. And I think that's an important thing to note, because it's so often publicized being all ball python based. Which obviously being the most popular pet snake, I'm sure certain sales are easier to make, but when it comes down to it, some of these people, that are like breeding green trees or whatever, their market is much smaller, but they're able to breed, maybe 3 or 5, between 3 to 10 clutches, depending on what they're actually working with, and make a substantial amount of money. In some cases, the same amount of money that somebody who's got 50 clutches of ball pythons is making.
Or more.
Yeah. So that's, which is amazing. Like that's insane to really think about, just because it's so often just pushed as ball pythons. And
then there's people doing stuff like, there's been a huge uptick in people doing gargoyle geckos, like selectively bred red gargoyle geckos. I've seen a couple that are like $2,000-$3,000 gargoyle geckos, and I was like, are you
silly?
Same thing with leopard gecko. Crested geckos. People going off like Chase from Zengex. Holy crap, man! Every time that guy posts some geckos, I'm like, geez, holy moly! It's amazing. It's really incredible to see. And the lily white morph in crested geckos, it's kind of been at $1,000 for the last several years. And I was like, oh, it's going to come down. And like when it's like $500, there's a lot of people who are going to get into it. And I was like, oh, it's going to take like 2-3 years. They've been holding steady at like $1,000. Like they even dipped down to like $600 at one point, and now they're like back up to $1,000. And they're like a stunning gecko. Like they're worth every cent of $1,000, I think. In my opinion. But it's just like, if you would put a little bit of money into buying some nice breeder females, or some nice lily whites to raise up, and then get some nice males to put to them, you can make a killing doing it. And crested geckos lay a crap ton of eggs.
Yep.
It's insane.
And you don't even need an incubator.
I know. Leave them on the shelf and they're fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Did you see, this is totally random, but also very cool. Did you see the baby chihuahuas downstairs?
I did. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Wait, are those from ours?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
really cool. I'm
Dude.
proud of them.
Tyler was down there. This was when I was still up there. Tyler was down there and he was spraying that basin because they moved the chihuahuas out of there. They redid it for the basin. So he's in there spraying for the basin and just sees bink. It's like, what is this?
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yep.
That's insane.
Yeah. So he sees that one. And so he takes that out and he's like spraying again. And then bink, the other one showed up. And it was like they had just hatched because they were going through their first sheds like right then and there. It was it was crazy. I was like, oh my God, like that's really cool.
Dude, so 2 years ago, something similar to that happened. So 2 years ago in the wintertime, Dozer and Tonka, our rhino iguanas at Nerd, we had them in one of our big monitor rooms. They get like a corner enclosure where they've got this like all these area to climb and a big window to sit out in the sun and all this stuff. And so they spent the whole winter time there. And then spring, summer, they moved outside and we put some albino water monitors over in that enclosure. And when Dozer and Tonka are in there, we put redfoot tortoises in there because they eat all the same stuff. And so we moved the redfoot tortoises outside. We moved the iguanas outside. And then this was when Donnie was still doing monitors. And he comes in and he's like, hey, there's supposed to be a tortoise in the monitor enclosure. And I'm like, we took all those out. Like, they're all outside. And he's like, no, like a little baby one. And I was like, there's no baby tortoises in there. He's like, no, there's like a little, and I was like, I don't believe you. So he went and grabbed it, he brought it back, and his little hatchling redfoot tortoise. And I was like, are you kidding me? The redfoot tortoise is bred inside the enclosure, buried the eggs in the substrate, and the substrate's like a foot deep. So like, I mean, I figured that the monitors, once they got in there, they would have dug up those eggs and ate them.
Yeah.
I guess enough time had passed where it didn't smell like eggs and they didn't dig in that particular area because we went in there and we found 2 more eggs and we hatched out the babies from those eggs. And I was like, what the heck is going on now?
Crazy.
Especially because the monitors were in there and the baby was on top of the substrate. Like it hatched out, dug out of the substrate and was on top of the substrate when he found it. And I was like, how did the monitors not eat this freshly hatched little cheeseburger that was in there?
Yeah, that's
wild.
Take it, just take it.
I was impressed.
Yeah, those are the things, man. Those are the ridiculously awesome things that happen in our line of work.
Yeah. Jeez, that's like finding wild tokay geckos all over the building.
Well, that's been happening for years.
I know. It's scary though when you reach your hand behind a rack and hear and you're like, ah!
Yeah.
That's scary. You don't know fear until you reach your hand behind something where you can't see and you hear a tokay gecko bark.
That's true. That is real fear.
That's real fear.
Yeah.
Like, forget heights, forget drowning. That's not scary. Reaching behind a cage and hearing a tokay gecko bark is scarier than all of those things combined.
That's very true.
To me. I think it's weird because there's so many people who have never been bit by a tokay gecko, or they've only been bit by like a sickly one at an expo or something, and they're like, tokay gecko bites don't hurt. And I'm like, let me show you a real tokay gecko. And I show them like a big, healthy, fat male, and they're like, oh.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, it feels like you'd grab a pair of pliers and just like, pinch down on you.
Yep, and don't let go for very, very long periods of time.
Yeah, for real. The last time I got bit by one, it held on for like 45 minutes. Yeah, you got tokay geckos, you got to make sure that you don't got nothing but time.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Because damn, you're gonna be real upset. Or you're gonna be going to whatever engagement you need to go to, and there's gonna be a tokay gecko still attached to you.
Pretty much. I used to do it with gloves, so if they bit the glove, I could just like sneak my hand out and then throw the whole glove and the gecko into its enclosure and just come
There you
back
go.
later.
There you go. And it would still be attached to the glove by the time you came back.
Oh yeah, I had
And
that
you're like,
happen.
why? Yeah,
It's been 45 minutes. Why are you still biting that thing?
yeah. That's freaking amazing. That's got to be the next thing we get Lucas bit by the next time he comes to Nerd. It's going to be a big
Hold
Tokyo
on.
gecko.
Speaking about Lucas and
Yeah.
youth in the hobby that are doing things, he's got green tree python eggs right now,
He
which is
does.
like challenging for people who breed green tree pythons. And he's doing it, and his eggs look really good. Like when he first posted them, I was like, that one in the beginning. I was like, don't get ahead of yourself. Just keep focused. Stay, watch them, make sure everything's cool. And he is right on it. And then he posted a picture a couple days ago or something, and they all look mint. And I was like, yeah, what the hell? That's where it's at.
Yeah, 100%.
Where it's what? I put them on the counter in the house. Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's one of those testaments to really being dedicated to a project that you enjoy.
That you love.
Because I mean, think about it. Like, how many teenagers get? And this is certainly not a dig at anybody, but how many teenagers get into it and they've got ball pythons, or they've got corn snakes, or they've got bearded dragons or leopard geckos, and they start breeding those. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Obviously, they all pose their own various
It's a good place
challenges.
to get started. Yes.
Yeah. But to have that amount of dedication to where you're like, no, like I keep some of that stuff, but I am like zeroing in on green trees and emerald tree boas and all of that stuff. Like, this is what I enjoy. So to get these animals, raise them up. He got them as juveniles or subadults. So kind of raise them up to the rest of breeding size, breed them, and go through that entire cycle, having never bred anything else, being around breeders and stuff, because his family's been in it, but never actually doing that work himself, to them breeding one of the trickiest python species to reproduce.
Very challenging.
And also crushed the odds. Like, it's very commonplace to get first time green trees that just slug out and give you junk, or like one egg and a bunch of junk. And I mean, he had everything right, and damn, so yeah, now those eggs are cooking in that incubator. And the question is going to be, is he going to pull a Rob and keep them all back, or is he going to actually sell some things?
Here's the deal with Borneos and with green tree pythons and blood pythons and carpet pythons, you kind of want to see, like, after a year what their color does and what direction they're going to go in. Because like a baby green tree python, it's tough to tell what it's going to look like in a year. It is easier to sell it when they're yellow or red or orange babies, though.
That is true.
Unless he gets really crazy blue ones, because those are easy to sell.
That's true. But then he would keep them all.
I mean, that's what I would do. Yeah. I got so many people who are like, hey, when Janet has babies, you need to sell me one. And I was like, first clutch is mine, sorry. All those babies are mine, unless they're all boys. That's the only way that I'll sell any.
Yeah.
Other than that, everything's mine.
Now you just jinxed yourself, though.
I don't care.
Clutch is going to be boys.
That's fine. I already know where they're going to go if they are all boys. So
that's fair. That's fair.
They're special animals to me, so
that's true. That is very true. So shout out to Lucas.
For real.
If you guys don't know who we're talking about, it's at Cobra Keeper Jr. on Instagram. Go check out what he's doing, because he's doing some good stuff, and it's just the beginning for him. Which is awesome. Speaking of Lucas, though, that brings me to kind of circling back to like energy in the industry and how this kind of impacts youth. I mean, as much as there is positivity that we've seen that does exist in the industry, it's unfortunately still become very, very easy to find some drip of drama and negativity that often will literally just scare people away from the industry, and it certainly sucks. Like Lucas had just posted something on his Instagram story about like, I need to just like step back from social media for a bit, because I don't really know how to deal with like just everything that I see is somebody's attacking this person or somebody's going off about this or going off about that, and it's like, aren't we supposed to be like in the hobby together because we just like these animals? Like, what's the deal? And unfortunately, it's a really common way to lose people, in the industry, especially those people who are like brand new and they really don't know anything. Where it's like they have a bearded dragon, they got the setup that they think is correct, and they post a photo of it, and maybe something is wrong. And then people just like jump down their throat, and it's like, man, they just wanted to be a reptile keeper. They wanted to be a beardy mom or whatever, it's a challenge. But unfortunately, it's a lot of times it's adults that just think they're the best thing in the world. And it's like, dude, we all started somewhere. Everybody knew nothing at one point.
Yep.
Hell, who the hell was I think it was like Brian Barczyk on one of his podcasts was talking about another old school herper that like the first time they bred Burmese pythons, it was like 4 clutches produced before they figured out how to incubate the eggs. So 4 times there were eggs on the ground of captive bred Burmese pythons, and 3 of those 4 clutches went to shit because they just didn't know how to do anything with this. So at some point, everybody knew nothing. When it came to this, and granted, there's a lot more research and easily accessible information on the internet than there was, back in the 80s and 90s. But it still doesn't negate the fact that like people need to learn. And nobody liked that teacher that was an asshole in school, or, marked up everything you turned in with red ink, rather than actually just like had a conversation with you, and be like, hey, you should look at it this way or whatever. Same thing applies, man. Like, I'd rather see somebody post something that's messed up and then shoot them a DM and be like, hey, saw your post, so glad that you're keeping reptiles. I noticed that, this aspect of your enclosure isn't necessarily the greatest. Here's a couple things you should check out, to kind of help enhance the life of your animal and your experience with that animal, because at the end of the day, if you get hit with a bunch of people like shitting on you for something you're doing incorrectly, and B, because that thing that you were doing incorrectly now potentially got that animal sick, you've dealt with all the douchebags and then potentially losing your animal just because you didn't know something, and that's, if that was me, I wouldn't want to like do anything else. I would be like, all right, well, I tried it, it's not for me.
I think that one of the things that I've seen recently that kind of like grinds my gears is like I see a lot of like younger people who are like just trying to free handle every venomous snake that they can. And I'm like, you're 17 years old. And they're like, well, I've got experience. I'm like, how much experience can you have at 17 years old? Like, I get it. I've been watching lots of snakes and stuff. I watched Steve Irwin and all this stuff. And it's like, there's cool. You've watched a video of people doing things. That's different than like hands-on experience of understanding animal behavior and, psychology and all this stuff. And, those kids, I mean, they do catch some heat, but it seems to just fuel them to do it more. And, almost all of them have been bit. And it's like, that's not something to be proud of. And it's like, they look up to people like Tyler Nolan or Chandler or whoever that just does the free, or Will Nace. And they just want to do that. And it's like, I remember thinking I was invincible when I was a kid too. I remember that. I'm not gonna crap on that. You know, that's part of being a kid and doing dumb stuff. You know, everyone does it. You know, I didn't drink or do anything like that when I was a kid. You know, I did play with big snakes and I can go out like all kinds of stuff with, you know, reptiles and everything. So I mean, yeah, if it's not one thing, it's another.
Yeah.
But you know, people have to. That's something that discourages me as a keeper sometimes, is seeing these, you know, 16-year-olds or 17-year-olds, and they just want to free handle everything, and they're like posting pictures online and all this, that, and the other thing, and you know, I don't have as much respect for those people as I do when I see someone who's 16 or 17 or 18, and you know, they're using a hook or a tool or something just to, even if they're tailing it. Like I'm cool with tailing stuff. That's fine. That's something, you got to do that
Yeah.
sometimes. But I have way more respect when I see people doing that online than the people who are like, I need to put it on. Look at how close it is to my face, and I'm like, what do you think that you're proving? Like, I don't understand what you think that you're teaching people,
Yeah.
because there. And then the first thing they hit you with is like, oh, I'm showing people that snakes aren't scary, and it's like, that's not how you do it, though.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah. There's a
most
very
of those
different way
people,
to do that.
yeah, most of the people are clicking to see if you die.
Yeah.
I hate to be blunt about it, but like half those clicks are people waiting to see when you die, and that's kind of
Yeah.
like bleak. That's bleak for me. Like, I don't want people to watch my shit just so that when I get bit, they go, well, I knew that was coming. And if you like all those, I'm not gonna say all of them, but a lot of those people who do the free handling stuff, they've been bit. It just is what it is. It's part of the beast. If the people want to take that risk, you know, you can play Russian roulette for 15 years, but all it takes is one time, and
Yeah.
that's it. Like,
No, that's
that's
I
all it is.
I think that's exactly it. I definitely think that's exactly it. Yeah, I've definitely seen that same kind of stuff, and it's like, dude, you know, I remember having a conversation months ago with one of those kids who posted a video clip free handling a Southern Pacific rattlesnake, and I was like,
Oh, that's a bad one to get bit by.
yeah, I
That's
was
that's a
like,
real bad one to get bit by.
yeah, and I was like, oh my god. Now, mind you, the snake was very young, probably like a year old at most.
Still,
And the person, well, no, but the response when I was like, why would you, what are you doing? And they're like, well, I've raised this snake, I know its
it's a year
behavior and
old.
blah blah blah. And I'm like, the snake's a year old and doesn't even know its own behavior.
Literally.
Like
Yeah,
what
they
are
haven't
you?
come into their mature mindset yet. Like,
Yeah, you know, I'm like that was the most ridiculous thing I think I had ever heard. Is like, well, I've raised this snake and I'm aware of its behavior. I'm like, what? Like, please
yeah,
let me go find a child and start like punching that child, expecting some ridiculous you know, thing to happen and being like,
response.
well,
Yeah,
I know that kid, it's just gonna lay down on the ground and that's all it's gonna do because I punched it. Like, dude, one of those days
no,
that child's gonna be 6 foot. It's
yeah,
gonna find you and annihilate you, you know. But
yeah,
like, you know, it is what it is. But you know, I mean, I think there definitely has to be some level of understanding. You know, one of the things that I think that's frustrating too is like in a lot of these cases where it's younger kids free handling, they're in states where there's like very little regulations, or you know,
yeah,
maybe they're connected with somebody that has stuff and they also free handle or whatever. It just sets a bad example. You know, I mean, you know, there's like the argument of you know, well, just because you see somebody, you know, doing one thing, does that mean you know, you need to go and do it too? And it's like, well, no, I don't need to do what somebody else does, but it's badass, so I want to try it, you know. And that mentality is all it takes for somebody to get seriously injured.
yeah. And the thing for me is like, it's one thing if you know, want to have an experience with your animal, and you know, you have a full understanding of this animal, you've worked with it for years, and you can, you know, you've tested your limitations and all this sort of stuff with this animal. and if you're doing that for that experience of that animal, that's one thing. But when you take pictures and video and you post it on social media, it's not about that animal. It's not about that experience anymore. It's about you trying to boost your ego, trying to show, look at the thing that I can do that you can't do, or, that's what they think they're doing. But for the people who actually understand, snake psychology and snake behavior at a more advanced level, you're not doing anything that hasn't been done before. It's very rare that you would do anything that hasn't been done before. That's all it breaks down to. And you're just doing it for your own ego. I know a few people who keep a lot of venomous snakes and they free handle, but they literally don't take any pictures. They don't post any pictures or video. They just do it because they have an understanding with, a specific animal in their collection. They've had it for years. When they move it, it responds better to, a gentle lift and being hooked and then placed someplace, as opposed to, just using it on tools or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's on them. I mean, I don't have any issue with that. The biggest thing is just like when you go from, taking this experience that you're having with this animal and sharing that moment with the animal, to then posting it online, you're not caring about the animal anymore. It has nothing to do about, it's very, very little to do with the actual animal at that point. It's got more to do with you trying to impress people, you trying to boost your ego, trying to portray something that you think that you are. And, their idea is, oh, well, it's going to win people over about snakes. And you don't have to free handle venomous snakes to do that. You really don't.
Yeah, like literally you could hatch a ball python with an emoji face.
Yeah, or you could just hold a regular snake, or a rat snake, or literally something that's not potentially going to kill you.
Yeah.
Or even just taking a venomous snake out and putting it down on the floor, using your tools, taking a venomous snake out, putting it on the floor and standing next to it. Yeah. Because the general understanding, the general consensus is that, venomous snakes are evil and they're going to chase you and they're going to come after you and blah, blah, blah. But if you take a venomous snake out and put it on the floor, 99 times out of 100, they're going to freeze, or they're going to go away from you. They're going to go in a direction that's not near you because you're a threat. You're a giant animal and they don't want to potentially get hurt. Snakes are a big backbone. You step on one and you're going to break its back. It's all it is.
It's as simple as that. Yeah.
And its venom is not going to kill you in a reasonable amount of time, like even some of the more toxic species. So like its venom is not a good form of self-defense. So literally they're saying, oh, well, I'm teaching people that venomous snakes aren't evil. And it's like, there are so many ways to do that without, taking this huge exponential risk. And the more that you do it, the more risk there is. You can drive around for years and never have any accidents. And then, one day you have an accident. It just is what it is. The longer you drive, the more likely it's going to happen because it's statistics. And for those people, I feel like they don't fully look at the bigger picture of what's going on in the world around them and the climate that we're in as keepers in the United States and around the world. It's just, I feel like it's an immature mindset is what it boils down to. And a lot of the kids, I don't want to say kids, a lot of the younger people I see that are free handling are younger people. They're 17 years old or 20 years old or whatever. And, speaking as someone who's 32 and has been keeping snakes for 17 years, I didn't feel like I was in a comfortable position with snake psychology and understanding of behavior and everything to work with venomous snakes until I was like 10 years in, until I had a good solid base of understanding of not just, looking at venomous snakes, but also a variety of different non-venomous snakes and other reptiles too, because there's so many different aspects of where this can go and everything. So it is what it is. And, for those people, I know they're probably not going to be listening to this specifically unless someone links them directly. Like I don't expect them to listen to this at all. But for you who's listening at home, just think about what you put on social media and what your intended reason or that what you're looking to get out of posting that thing.
Because
I
think one of the things that's that's I just want to interject this. That's
No.
I think important to note too. As you mentioned, like the current climate of the industry in today's world and where we're at. A lot of times, venomous keepers that really just keep venomous have no idea what's happening in the non-venomous industry or part of the industry, or sometimes have no idea of what's happening in the industry at all, because the venomous community is so niche, and it's of course you can go on to like kingsnake.com or fauna and like find a venomous snake and buy a venomous snake, and it's basically whatever. Or you go to a reptile show where you can get venomous and you buy a venomous snake, and that is what it is. But there's a little less involvement or community involvement. I feel like it's because it's so niche. It's also very I don't want to say doors closed, but people just in general, like the valid herp keepers that are keeping hots that are like, like Cody and Pia and other people like that. They're not necessarily like out in the public eye, like doing all these things or like interacting with other aspects of the industry. So they might not even be aware of the entire gravity of the portrayed thing that they're doing. Not that that's an excuse, but sometimes that just realizing that that's not even necessarily a blip on the radar, is often troubling to even think about.
Yeah. And someone in the comments was asking about free handling inverts. And honestly, I try and be really hands off with a lot of my invertebrates. The difference is, in the history of the United States, there's never been someone killed by a tarantula bite. Spiders in particular, very rarely do they kill people. Scorpions, very rarely, if ever, do they kill people. Centipedes, same thing. I mean, you do take a calculated risk. I don't like seeing people who just post pictures of them handling their invertebrates, because again, it makes it less about the animal itself and more about the person and their ego and what they look at me, look what I can do, blah, blah, blah. Saying that, I have handled a lot of the things that I've kept, not always on camera. I work with a decent amount of invertebrates, and I have over the last, 25, 30 years, pretty much my whole life. And, it's a little different to me, but it makes me feel similarly when I see people who just post pictures of them handling, potent spiders and stuff. I'm like, there's no gained value from that, really. I mean, it's very minimal value that people get, because if someone sees you holding a tarantula, like a rosehair tarantula, they think it's just as crazy as you holding a black widow. Like, their understanding is so skewed that a rosehair tarantula that's harmless is equated to a black widow that potentially could be deadly if you don't get medical attention or you have a compromised immune system or something like that. So, the way of risk versus what you get out of it is a little bit different with the inverts, in my opinion. Especially with like the rosehair tarantulas and stuff like that. I handle those on a regular basis to get people over their fear of tarantulas. But the majority of my inverts I don't handle. I don't really see the need to. I use catch cups. I use tools. I try and be as safe as possible. And you know what? Just throwing that out there and saying that, and then I'm admitting that I have free handled stuff, and even some stuff that I wouldn't recommend that other people free handle, like Poecilotheria species, like the Indian ornamental tarantulas and some of the other ornamental species. I've never been bit by a tarantula in my entire life, and I've literally had them my whole life. My mom had tarantulas before I was born. When I was little, I was raised with them, and I've never been bit by a tarantula ever. And a lot of people who free handle, they can't say that, because they're not coming from a place of understanding the animal. They're coming at it, I'm going to conquer this beast. Look at me. And they're not, they're doing it for their reasons, not for the animal's reasons. Most of the times where I've handled my, more potent species, It's been because they were panicked when I was moving them from one enclosure to another. They got out into an open area, and it was easier for me to get them onto my hand as opposed to putting a catch cup over the top of them in the particular area that they were in. And, I'm not going to say that I know more than other people when it comes to handling those sort of things. But I have a very gentle technique, and like I said, I've never been bit. So, I mean, that's got to stand for something. And I've been working with these animals for over 20 years. So, like, that's not something that you learn overnight or even in a year. Like, I get a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm getting into tarantulas. I really want to get some old world species, which are like the ones that are generally more potent venom and more inclined to bite. And I'm like, you should probably get at least a year's worth of keeping inverts before you get a species that could potentially really hurt you. It's so much easier to make a mistake in the first year of you keeping something than after you've had at least a year of keeping things. Accidents can still happen. People can still make mistakes and get bit. But if you have a better understanding, I get to see a lot of people the one thing that grinds my gears in the invert hobby is people get in and they go from like no spiders to like 500 spiders. Like, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but like 0 spiders to like 50 spiders in 2 months. And they haven't raised tarantulas for all that long. They haven't understood their behavior, or you get used to feeding them and watering them and blah blah blah. But like, there's things that you learn 6 months in, 8 months in, a year, 5 years in, that you just are not going to learn in the first 2 weeks or a month. It is what it is.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
I feel like part of that too comes from that first like couple weeks to a month, and maybe even the first couple months, there's still that like level of like, you're just like, oh man, this is such a cool animal, and then after that, not to say that the shininess goes away, but like you're like, okay, like I have this animal, and then when you're looking at it, you're looking at it from a different perspective. Instead of looking at it as like, look at this cool, crazy spider or crazy reptile or whatever, you're like, oh man, it's really interesting how this animal does blank, during the day or whatever. You just start to look at it from a different lens.
Yeah, for people who are wondering what I'm talking about, or they're like, well, I got into it. If you've been keeping anything over a year, think about where you were a year ago and what your understanding of those things were a year ago, or even not even related to reptiles. Think about the things that you didn't know in your life a year ago. Think about how much your life has changed in 1 year, and then relate that to your understanding of the animals that you keep. Yeah. And let that soak in for just a minute. Like, pause your tape right now and let that soak in. And then think about where your life was 5 years ago, and all the things that you didn't understand 5 years ago. And then bring that back to where you're at right now. And then think, waiting 6 months is not going to kill you. It's not going to, statistically, not waiting the 6 months is more likely to kill you than waiting the 6 months when it comes to venomous stuff. People get so caught up in the excitement and these animals, they bring up feelings in you, and they bring up this like deep, like emotional, psychological something to them. And it's very easy to get caught up in it and just be like, I need to envelop myself in this. But if you can use your rational brain and, I really like that example. I've never put it like that before, but just thinking about, all the things that I thought I knew 5 years ago. And now I look back and I'm like, what the hell was that? That idiot, the dumb one over there, him? And I was the dumb idiot from 5 years ago, him? Yeah. And then I look at it now and I'm like, I have a much better understanding, but I know in 5 years ago, I'm going to be going,
that guy.
Look at that guy.
Yeah.
And that's the goal though. But people, when they get into, any of these animals that are more advanced or potentially dangerous, it's worth taking the time, breathing, thinking about it. I was talking to some of the guys today at Nerd about, wanting to get scrub pythons when I was younger. When I was 18 years old, I used to see scrub pythons for like $200 at the expo, and I was like drooling over them. And the guy at the table was like, "I'll cut you a deal. I'll sell it to you." And for me, I was just like, I know I was living at home with my parents, and I was like, I can't justify, getting this animal and then, having to sell it. Like, to me, that would be like gut wrenching. Like, I just love
Yeah.
scrubs so much that I turned down a lot of scrub pythons back in the day because I was just like, I don't want to, do wrong by this animal. I don't want to, I don't want to have to get rid of it if I get it. If I'm gonna sell any scrub pythons, I want it to be on my terms. I don't want it to be some external factor that is, neither here nor there. And it paid off. It paid off because I waited probably 8 years to get my first scrub. But before, from my first time seeing one in person to getting one of my own, I waited like 8 years. And I when I got my scrub, I was at a way higher level of understanding of that animal's psychological behavior than if I had bought that first one that I saw at the first expo for $200. I probably would have had a crap time. I don't know if I would have appreciated him as much as I do. I seriously,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I still like stuff that is more defensive and everything, but I don't know if I would have the same like love and drive for them that I do right now.
So more of your enclosures would have short tails. That's what I'm hearing.
Maybe, probably. Probably. But that just like, it goes to show, like, I waited, and it paid off for me.
Yeah.
And when people see my scrub pythons, they're like, these are different. They're very different. And I think that plays to my understanding of them and the way that I work with them, and when I chose to get into them. I've seen other people who've got great scrub pythons and everything too, but at some point, I think that the way that I interact with mine does play a role in how they are. And you know what? I'm not perfect. I'm not someone who's an expert. Like, I've never bred scrub pythons. I just really love them. And not that breeding anything is the ultimate measure of your understanding of the animal, but I mean, that's generally how people see it nowadays.
I mean, it definitely does bode a bit more of a level of respect to that keeper if they're able to breed, regardless of whatever the species is. But in particular, like scrubs and any of these really trickier to breed species, just because like it's you needing to do your due diligence to figure out, okay, I'm doing this is or isn't working, what becomes the next step, and watching that reaction time, which oftentimes means like staring at your animal for an extended period of time and watching how it's acting, or like, okay, you got to deal with this animal and palpate it or ultrasound it or whatever, whatever you're going to do to make sure you're still moving in the right direction, realizing that, okay, I don't need to palpate this animal 3 times a day, but I should probably do it every couple of days to kind of see where that follicular development is going. Like, and of course, the more time you spend with your individual animals, you'll notice when they start to look a little different or act a little different, So, and that's, again, that's kind of regardless of species, but there certainly is that element of like, if you're breeding it, you have to pay a bit more attention than if you're slapping it in a cage with a heat pad and, and a thermostat, and you're like, all right, cool, we're good to go. It's going to live,
Yeah. I mean, and even then, there's people who keep things really well and do amazing by the animals who never intend to breed them. And I even see that with the scrub pythons. Like, a lot of people who are into scrubs, they just like to have the big naturalistic enclosures. And I have like this huge amount of respect. And they don't even want to try and breed them, or they might want to try and breed them, but they haven't tried to yet. Like, I got this. Yeah. And, that I like that. I like seeing that because it goes to show where their mentality is. They're not coming at this as a, look at this thing. I find that a lot of the people who keep scrubs do it to be humbled by them and to, they look at it as like sharing their space with this animal as opposed to like, I got the snake, like it's a little different. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I could certainly see that. I'm not a huge scrub guy, but from the few times I have been able to interact with them, it's definitely a different experience than just about any other snake.
It's fun.
So sure it is.
I like it. It's very cerebral for me. It's very it gets my brain going. Like not a lot of things do. I mean, when I'm cleaning a lot of stuff or like working with a lot of snakes, it's very like it just flows for me. I'm just like, doing this and doing that. When I work with scrubs and like a couple other species, I'm like always thinking about what's going through their brain and what is next and what the next move is and their muscle tone and how they're holding on to you and all this different stuff. And I love that. I love that.
Yeah. Hell yeah, dude. All right. It's that time, dude.
It is.
So
it is that time.
Rob.
Yes.
It's time to answer the question.
Hold on. I need to pull up. I want to make sure that I don't get their account wrong.
Okay. Well, while you're looking up the account, I'll ask the question. So, Rob.
Yes.
What in the realm of reptiles, be it something in your own collection or nerd or something that you've seen through the world of online insanity, has you excited about reptiles?
I mean, besides hanging out with Ty Park and John Dragna this weekend, because that was like
Stop bragging.
It was awesome. It was so cool. Jeremy, I wish you were there. That was really cool. Going to the expo was really exciting too. But the thing that I wanted to talk about, this account on Instagram, I shared that one of their snakes on my Instagram story recently, but if you're listening to this post, it probably won't be on my Instagram story anymore. But their Instagram account is Sarpa Mitra USA.
Oh, yes, Matthew Moose.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
What is it? The Bothrothalamus lineatus. It's like this red mountain snake or something. And when they hatch, they got these bright bone white heads with these black markings on them.
Yes.
And then they're all red with the black racing stripes on them. Oh my God. Oh, I love that snake. That is such a cool snake. And they've got a lot of cool stuff that's not that snake, but oh my goodness. I look at the baby pictures and they're breeding them and I'm like, oh, it's so good. So their Instagram account is at SARPAMITRA USA and check them out because hold on, I'm gonna steal it from Brian Barczyk. Whoo doggy.
That word Sarpa Mitra or whatever, it means something relating to snakes. I forgot what, because I looked it up a while back. I forgot what it meant. But yeah, dude, he's got some super cool colubrids. Yeah.
All right, Jeremy. So what has got you excited about reptiles right now?
Oh man. You know what? Actually, I'm super excited that there are some Macklot python eggs on the ground in a couple different collections. Very excited about that.
That's cool.
Not because I plan on buying any or anything, but
No.
Maybe a handful or 10.
Two handfuls of them.
Yeah, 2 handfuls of Macklot pythons. But also excited at the fact that there's they're not all from the same person and they're not all from the same lineage. So so that makes me even more excited at the prospect of buying a couple handfuls of them. They're not all the same bloodline. So
unrelated.
Exactly. I kept Macklots years ago and actually, you know where my original pair is? Did I ever tell you where my original pair is?
I don't know.
My original pair went to Barczyk.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, years
I didn't know that.
years ago. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep. So the snake bites videos and I think like early vlog videos, those Maclots pythons, those were mine. Those were my big adults. Never bred them. I didn't necessarily even have an iota of
What you
how
were
to
doing.
breed Maclots pythons, but I absolutely loved them.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited about that stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, buddy.
All right, Jeremy,
I mean-
if people want to find out more about you, where are they going?
They can go everywhere.
At Brassman Reptiles.
Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at Brassman Reptiles, Twitter at Brassman Rep. That's it. I always think I'm forgetting one.
YouTube.
The
Brassman Reptile.
YouTubes, hi YouTube. Make sure
Oh,
you go
no.
subscribe to me at Brassman Reptiles, where if you're just listening to the audio of this podcast, you can also catch the video on YouTube at Brassman Reptiles. There's a playlist, the Reptile Talk podcast playlist. And yeah, you can check out some fun videos of me and Rob being me and Rob. So, Rob, where can people find more on you?
On Instagram at Rob is Creeping It Real, and on Twitter at Rob is Creeping, and then on YouTube, Rob is Creeping It Real. We will catch you guys next time.
See ya.
Later.